Well, it's Wednesday, March 27th, 2024, and I'm here in West Virginia, driving up on Harpers Ferry. Very historical location. I've opted to I have very little time to do this. It wasn't a planned stop. So the park ranger up at the visitor center said that there was a couple of places to park in town, and they called ahead and make sure those spaces were not actually filled, so that by the time I got down here I would be pretty assured of finding a parking space. We will see. Otherwise you can walk down. It takes a lot longer. They have a shuttle bus, but it's not like it runs every few minutes, so they thought this would be the most economical way of doing it. Alright, I'm here at a parking lot next to the Harpers Ferry Amtrak train station. I've been here before on my trip. I believe it was the Capital Limited, where the train stopped here for a little while before crossing the bridge. Came in from that way and stopped here, part of the train on the bridge, and then eventually goes through a tunnel on the other side. And here's part of the town. There is a fee for parking here, but according to the sign, if you have paid at the visitor center for park entrance, and you don't have to do that just to come to here and park. So if you've already done that, then apparently the parking is free. But there's not very many spaces, and that's why they called ahead and checked to make sure there were still a few empty that I could almost certainly get into. But by the time I got here, there was only about 2 spaces left. So this is a spot where 3 states come together. First off, the river that's coming in there on the left, that should be the Shenandoah or the Potomac River coming in there. A little hard to see through the trees. And back there on the other side of the village is the Shenandoah River. And then right up here where these 2 bridges are at, the 2 rivers join, and it just becomes the Potomac at that point. So the Shenandoah is joining the Potomac right at this point. That over there, where the Rocky Hill is, that's Maryland. And turning around this way, that's West Virginia. And over where the town is, on the other side of the train station, that's Virginia over there. So you can almost be in 3 states at the same time. So I'm just going to read what it says on the visitor's map that they give you. Here at Harpers Ferry, where the Potomac River cuts through the Blue Ridge, you encounter the past and its stories of magnificent expanses and hidden quarters. In the force of these rushing waters, George Washington envisioned military strength and chose Harpers Ferry as the site for an armory. Factories from the early 1800s witnessed innovations that fueled the Industrial Revolution. Here, abolitionist John Brown struck a blow against slavery, and soon the Civil War trapped the town between the North and the South. In the wake of war's devastation, legendary civil rights leaders met at Storer College and claimed every single right that belongs to a free-born American. From the point where the 2 rivers meet, you can see the V-shaped water gap. People on the move found their way through this natural corridor. First American Indians, then European settlers. Robert Harper started a ferry across the Potomac here in 1747. By the early 1800s, the rivers powered an armory complex and commercial mills. The revolutionary method of manufacturing with interchangeable parts was perfected at the Hall's Island Rifle Factory. In October 1859, determined to arm enslaved people and spark a rebellion, John Brown and his followers seized the armory and several other strategic points. The raid failed, with most men killed or captured. Brown's own trial and execution focused attention on the issue of slavery and propelled the nation towards civil war. John Brown's fort stands near its original location. Nearby is the John Brown Museum. Okay, I do a little walking around with the time I have available here. Glad the rain let up. It's been raining pretty heavily here until just shortly before I arrived. Harpers Ferry General Store. Obviously there's a lot of bed and breakfasts and restaurants here. It's a very touristy area, but by and large the look of it, the architecture and so on, doesn't look too out of place. And of course a lot of the buildings are historical, if not most or all of them, I suppose. The railroad tracks here, which go up to the other side of the station but do not continue, these are the tracks that would have gone across the second bridge, which is now a pedestrian walkway. And not only is it a walkway, this here is part of the Appalachian Trail. And one thing a lot of people like to do, and I'm going to do it, is walk across the bridge to the other side and back, thereby saying that I've walked the Appalachian Trail between Virginia and West Virginia. This is the John Brown Monument here. Commemorated here is the original location of the John Brown Fort, the Federal Armory's fire engine house, where abolitionist John Brown and his raiders were captured by US Marines on October 18th, 1859. If you look to the south, you will see the fort about 150 feet from here. And that's the so-called fort right there. The fort was first moved in 1891 from its original foundation, which again would have been right where I'm standing. It was done that because of the railroad. Not quite sure where you're supposed to get on the trail here. That's not the way to do it, apparently. I guess I have to go around.
We're going to walk down this way, then we'll go there.
Here's an Appalachian Trail sign directing people where to go. So this will be the Potomac here heading down towards Washington, D.C. And the highway I came in on is probably on that bridge there. And obviously there was yet another railway coming across because there's a port there. There's a couple more. There's some over here. So another set of tracks would have gone, I don't know, through there somewhere. And here's where the rivers are joining, right about here. Where three national trails meet. You have the Appalachian Trail, the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal, and the Potomac Heritage Trail, all joining at this location. Excuse me. Again, that bridge over there is the one that the Amtrak Capital Limited goes across. Underdressed. I wasn't expecting to do any hiking. And it's kind of cold, only about 40 degrees, and the wind's blowing right in my face sailing down this valley. So, needless to say, I don't want to spend more time walking here than I have to. A lot of people put locks on the fence. I think the last bridge walk I did was on the Golden Gate Bridge. Well, that's got to be one of the trails, but I'm not sure that's the Appalachian Trail. Might be one of the other two. Okay, yeah, that was the Appalachian Trail, because the Maryland Heights Trail goes off that way, and the C&O Canal towpath is both directions, and the Appalachian Trail heads off to the right. Lift lock. Here the forces of nature created a natural corridor for commerce. The Shenandoah and Potomac rivers carved a notch in the mountains, providing a passage west. Communities grew up on both sides of the river, and later a turnpike, a railroad, and a canal came through this notch. The railroad and canal competed constantly until the railroad gained dominance. Because of the devastation of the Civil War and decreasing dependence on water power, the area declined in importance. Today, the confluence of two traditional historical parks, the Chesapeake and Ohio Canal and Harpers Ferry, offer glimpses of an enterprising past. Take time to explore both parks. So, there was apparently a canal that ran through here, and then it continues. That there is where I suppose the locks would have been, right in that narrow masonry passage. I mentioned just a moment ago that the Appalachian Trail comes up this way. According to the signage, it does not continue, so it obviously does go across this bridge and into the town of Harpers Ferry, which is what I thought originally, but the signage bears it out. It's not really apparent just looking at the video, but the canal down there is considerably lower than the canal up here. Hence the need for locks. And here's the railroad bridge from the other side, or the current railway bridge, I should say. Looks like an old inn. Kind of surprised some big chunk of that rock outcropping didn't just come off sometime and just crush it. Well, maybe that's why it doesn't have a roof, huh? You gotta watch the signs on the Appalachian Trail. I've read Bryson's book, A Walk in the Woods, and that's one thing he often mentions, how easy it is to miss a sign. Or there'll be a sign but it's facing the wrong way or something. So that's looking upstream the Potomac right there. And again, it kind of curves around here, joined by the Shenandoah coming out of the bridges. And we're off the bridge, still on the trail. The small area that John Brown's fort, the firehouse, is located in is now called Arsenal. Arsenal Square. Okay, this large building is John Brown Museum, but there's construction in the front, so I have to go around the rear. Well, at the moment there's hardly anybody here. It's got some meeting rooms and a lot of roped off areas. I don't see any docents around. There's a couple, maybe 3 videos you can watch on the ground floor, but everything else at this time is roped off and you can't see anything. Well, due to construction and other issues here at the museum, didn't see very much, and I didn't have time to watch the videos, so I'm just going to do a little more walking around before I have to leave. This building here is the Meriwether and Lewis, or the Meriwether Lewis at Harpers Ferry Museum. It's a little one-roomer. Yeah, the object of your mission. This is about Lewis at Harpers Ferry, not Clark. Your country has just doubled in size, and the president has chosen you to lead a group of explorers through this new uncharted territory. Everything depends on your ability to plan carefully for this important mission. The journey will take years. You will travel thousands of miles. The supplies you take could be the difference between life and death. Where is the best place to get what you need for this incredible journey? If the year is 1803 and your name is Meriwether Lewis, Harpers Ferry, Virginia is that place. What skills would you need? The most important item Meriwether Lewis got at Harpers Ferry, a special boat. Gifts for the American Indians, the rifles. The expedition journals reveal that without Harpers Ferry supplies, it would have been impossible to complete the mission or even survive. All the supplies were chosen by Lewis and were important, but the rifles proved absolutely vital. Hunting for wild game saved the men from starvation. Their weapons also protected them from enemy threats and fierce attacks by grizzly bears. And talks a little about the experimental boat they came up with, which had a kind of an iron reinforced frame. He was working on his boat design, which he believed to be quite clever. It was light enough to transport and could easily be carried by his crew when assembled. He was sure it would carry almost 8,000 pounds. Representative listing of Meriwether Lewis's Harpers Ferry acquisitions. 40 fish gigs with a single barred point, 36 pipe tomahawks for Indian presents, 24 pipe tomahawks, 24 large knives, 15 rifles, 15 powder horns and pouches, 15 pairs of bullet molds, 15 wipers or gun worms, 15 ball screws, 15 gun slings, 1 small grindstone, 1 collapsible iron frame boat, extra packs of locks, tools for repairing the arms, or the guns and so on. Why Harpers Ferry? Leaving President Jefferson and the nation's capital behind, Meriwether Lewis wasted no time traveling to the United States Armory and Arsenal at Harpers Ferry to prepare for the remarkable journey west. He didn't have much time to gather his supplies and head west on the Ohio River before low water would slow him down. Lewis knew that Harper's Ferry was not only close to Washington, but also had the water power, the iron ore, the craftsmen, and the tools to make the supplies he would depend on. Well, I have about 20 minutes left, and I've decided that the one other thing I'm going to see before I head for my car is the Industrial Museum. Since a number of things related to the Industrial Revolution happened here at Harper's Ferry, it makes sense they would have an industrial museum. That's the Master Armorer's house. A series of exhibits if I had time. Dry goods store, general merchandise. Philip Frankel Company. Hats, caps, things like that. The Provost Marshal, Military District of Harper's Ferry. John Legg, shoemaker, and his building. You can see where apparently another building was right up next to this at some point. Now houses the Industry Museum, assuming it's open. And it says it is. A powered shaver, looked like for making the wooden parts of rifles or muskets. And there's a metal lathe. Well, actually, it's just a lathe. It looks like it could be used for metal or wood, actually. And another shaper. All overhead belt drive. A dual drill press. A little hard to get a good picture in here. And I'm not sure what that is. Maybe it's used for drawing. Okay, so they have a copy shaper there. Put the original on one side and then it turns and carves the other one.
Unwanted wood is removed with each half of the tool. Large pieces fly at first, with the chips becoming smaller and smaller as the work progresses. Notice how the rough groove so smoothly with each pass resulted in a softly grained piece. The opposite changes from smaller ridges tracing the material as the stuff is
And there's a bookshop down there, and that's about the end of the buildings on this street. This is, of course, the way in and out by car. But I'll caution again that there's very little parking here. And they really want you to park at the visitor center and take the shuttle down, or if you're inclined to walk, you can hoof it. But it's a good hike. There's a little hardware store here. And this elevated railway line, I don't get the impression that goes anywhere that could be used anymore. It actually looks like it's set up to be part of the walking path. Floods. Water power built this town, and the power of the water eventually destroyed it. The destruction of the Federal Armory during the Civil War began the town's decline. Many people who had left Harpers Ferry during the war did return, only to be driven away again, and this time permanently, by the devastating flood of 1870 and those that soon followed. Harpers Ferry never fully recovered. Well, it says hardware, but it's just a garage with a covered wagon in it. There's a 1889 flood picture. 1889, another picture of the flood. Water's lapping at the bridge, washed some of the bridge away, or one of the bridges. 1936 flood, 1924 flood. And there's a church up on the hill. Well, I'm glad I got to poke my nose in here, but it's hardly a thorough visit. Nice way to get off the highway for a couple of hours. Some remains of foundations here and there. There's another street. Although according to the map, there's not a whole lot of tourist things along it. It's, I think, mostly restaurants and shops and things, but not necessarily things set out to teach history. The small arsenal building that stood here from 1806 to 1861 was one of two warehouses for the nearby United States Armory. A Harpers Ferry visitor in 1821 described both buildings as arsenals for the deposit of arms manufactured, consisting of rifle, muskets, and some pistols, which are handsomely arranged and make a fine show. In 1859, abolitionist John Brown attacked Harpers Ferry, hoping to inspire a revolt against slavery. Brown wanted the arsenal's weapons to arm his recruits. Brown's raid came to a bloody end, but his actions helped propel the nation into the Civil War. When fighting broke out in 1861, retreating U.S. troops burned both federal arsenal buildings to keep the weapons from falling into Confederate hands. Apparently this area down here was the grounds of the armory itself.
No, that was the time where you got to choose, I think?
Looked something like that, apparently. At the time this illustration depicts, there was no bridges. They had to actually take ferries to get across. When you just look around at the remains of many bridges here, all the different railroads, abandoned and active, that come in from different directions, it's apparent what a hub this was. I checked with one of the park rangers in the train station parking lot, and he confirmed that if you've already gone to the visitor center and paid the $20 entrance fee to the park, then if you come down here, you do not need to pay for the parking in the train station. You just need to put your receipt showing you paid somewhere on the dashboard. But when I got back to my car here, there were people going all over the place trying to find spots because there were none. I imagine some of them ended up having to go back to the visitor center and take the shuttle bus down. So even though I got away with it here, I wouldn't recommend people assume that they can park here. I think other than the train station, unless you live here somehow, I didn't really see any other parking spaces anywhere. No on-the-street parking or anything like that, unless you drive a Forest Service or National Park Service vehicle. This is a really pretty lock here, nicely maintained. There's some locks there, remains thereof of several locks side by side, it looks like. Says that the Shenandoah Pulp Factory used to be here in 1887 to 1888 on the former site of the Shenandoah Canal's lower locks. Thomas Savery erected this large mill to provide wood pulp for the paper industry. 10 turbines arrived in pairs, so that's what would have been here. There were large water wheels or turbines of some kind in between each set of these walls, one after another, or two abreast, or not two abreast, two in sequence between each of those, so 10 total. After several unprofitable years, the mill closed in 1935. Within a year, the building was destroyed by the record flood of 1936. Its ruins reveal the last remnant of water-powered industry at Harpers Ferry.